This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot, and I always sail with travel insurance. You should too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Here we go.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. This is Cruise Radio.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Doug Parker. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Cruise Radio. Very happy to have you here, my friend. This week's show, a review of Explora One. That's from Explora Journeys, MSC Cruises luxury brand. Daniel stopped by to give his review here. But as always, staff writer Richard Sims on deck with cruise news. Hey, Richard.
Hey, Doug. I'm actually looking forward to that interview. I'm very curious about that ship.
Yeah, I want to sail it after hearing about it for sure. All right, to the news. Carnival Cruise Line is abbreviating your dining time if you so choose.
You know, I can't tell you how many times I've sat down with people who they want to have a good dinner, but they also want to see a show, and the show starts in like an hour or an hour and a half, and they don't think they're going to be able to do both. Well, good news, because Carnival Cruise Line is rolling out something called Express Dining, which promises to have you in and out of the main dining room in an hour or less. This is sort of an extension of something that they rolled out a while back, which was the Family Express line at the buffet. It was a small section of the buffet, and it offered like a lot of kid-friendly favorites, as well as, entrees and salads and stuff for the adults. But if you didn't have time to go through like the whole rigmarole of going through a big buffet, you could just go to the Family Express. This is sort of an offshoot of that for the main dining room. So in this case, you get a slightly abbreviated menu to order from, but it has all your favorites. It has the chocolate lava cake. And there are a few caveats you should know if you're thinking about using this. One is that you can only do it if you are a party of 6 or fewer. And I spoke to someone at Carnival directly for clarification yesterday, and they told me that everyone in your dining party has to go for the same options. So, like if you and I were having dinner, you couldn't do the express and then me do the regular. We would both have to do the express. So you can't sort of mix and match your options there. But, this is a really great option for people who want to sort of get in, get out, they want to sit down. They don't want to go to the buffet. They want to sit down meal, but they don't want to sort of linger over it forever. Right now, the plan's available on 15 ships, but by the end of May, it should be rolled out across the entire Carnival fleet.
And it looks like if you're going to sail Princess, you'll be paying more as far as gratuities are concerned.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about the daily gratuities that we're all used to, but also the ones that are automatically applied to things like specialty dining, drinks. Here's exactly what they say on their website. This charge will be applied to, quote, services or amenities provided to guests that are not included in the cruise fare. The new rate will be 20%, which honestly puts them on about the same level as most of the other mainstream lines. Previously, they had been adding 18% gratuity, so now it's going to 20%. It's worth noting this is not applied in shops and places like that. But wait, because we're not done talking about increases. Princess has also hiked the daily gratuity by $1 per person per day in cabin. So that means you'll now be paying $18 per person per day for standard cabins, $19 per person per day for mini suites, cabanas, and reserved collection cabins, and $20 per person per day for suites. I am not great at math, as has definitely been previously established, but that means a family of 4 who's doing a 7-day cruise in a suite will be paying $560 where the crew gratuity is concerned. But wait, because we're still not done talking about Princess price increases. They've also literally doubled the cost of having Princess Medallion mailed to your home. Now, you can pick it up for free at the cruise terminal. Excuse me. But if you want to have it shipped, a lot of people like to have everything taken care of in advance. If you want to have it shipped to your house, you can do that, but it'll be $20 where before it was $10. I don't know, this is just me spitballing, but this seems sort of like a deliberate effort to convince people they should just pick it up at the port and save that money. This is sort of the same progression that Disney made a few years ago. If you remember when Magic Bands were kind of new and shiny, they used to ship them as soon as you ordered your tickets. It was included in the price. They would pay, they would send you your Magic Band. But over time, they changed that from free shipping to you actually having to pay to have it shipped, or you could pick it up in the park. So this is a lot. You would think based on this that Carnival Corporation, which is the parent of Princess, is not making money hand over fist, and that they like somehow have to fill the coffers, because this is a lot of things to roll out all at once as far as price increases.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting, though, if you have the Princess Plus or Princess Premier package, you're still getting that delivered to you complimentary. So you're not having to pay that in advance.
I also believe if you have either of those packages, that the some of the gratuity hikes do not go into effect. Some do, some don't. You have to kind of look at your pro package and see what it includes and what it doesn't.
And as we record this, we await news about the future of the mega cruise ship terminal in Tampa.
Yeah, by the time listeners tune in, this might actually be resolved. But as of this very moment, the fate of a proposed terminal that would be able to welcome mega ships is in the hands of Florida's Governor, Ron DeSantis. The proposed port is designed for ships that are too big to pass beneath the Sunshine Skyway Bridge and get to the port in Tampa. Right now, these ships that are all the rage, everybody's building bigger and bigger ships, but they can't get to Tampa. So there's been this proposal that a second port be built on the other side of the bridge that would be specifically designed for these mega ships. But frankly, it seems very unlikely that it's going to come to fruition. It's already been under attack by locals and a wide variety of environmental groups, and the entire Florida Senate just approved the bill. So it's just basically waiting for DeSantis to sign it. If I were a betting man, which we all know I am, I'd say this proposed project is about to be dead in the water.
Next up is a rare man overboard story with a happy ending.
Typically, we think of a man overboard story as having one of two endings: a positive one in which the person is rescued and alive and well, and the alternative in which they are either never located and presumed dead, or actually found, but it is too late and they have passed away. But it turns out there's a third option, and that just unfolded on board the MSC Seashore. We got details about this via our tip line. And Doug, before we go on with the story, tell people where they can send their tips.
Tips at cruiseradio.net.
That seems easy enough to remember. So here's what we now know. After the MSC Seashore left the line's private island, Ocean Key, there was a report about a man going overboard. The ship altered its course and conducted an extensive search. We were actually sent photos of them conducting this search with them. Remember, they stay at Ocean Key late, so it was quite dark when this all went down. And we've got these great shots you can see on the site of the spotlight sort of sweeping the water, looking for the person who'd been reported overboard. The ship altered its course, conducted an extensive search, but with no luck. Eventually, passengers were told to go back to their cabins because they wanted to do a manual head count. Once they did that, they realized everybody was accounted for. It was a total false alarm. No one had gone overboard. So yes, these stories can have a third ending, and it's an amazing one in which no one went overboard at all.
Yeah, what drives the news a lot of times are your emails at tips@cruiseradio.net. So thank you. And we'll end here with two different entertainment-related stories, including one that's got some people fired up.
Yeah, which one should we start with? Let's go with the one that nobody's unhappy about. So Royal Caribbean is rolling out a new production on Legend of the Seas, and it's based on one of the most popular TV shows out there, America's Got Talent. In writing this up, I learned something that I actually thought was a typo. In the announcement that they revealed, they said that America's Got Talent has been the most popular summer TV show for 20 years. And I was like, okay, it has not been on for 20 years. They must mean, a lot of shows do 2 shows a season. So they must mean like 10 years. But no, it actually debuted in the summer of 2006. So this is actually, America's Got Talent has been around for 20 years. And now it's being rolled out for the first time on a cruise ship. Just like the TV version, there will be judges and a variety of entertainers. What makes this kind of perfect for a cruise ship is that you can constantly rotate the talent based on who's available. It might be singers, magicians, dancers, comedians. It's crazy flexible. If you don't know the show, basically it's a talent contest. You know, you get a bunch of different contestants and they perform and the judges rate, and somebody is declared the person with the most talent. And on the TV show, they go all season long to the grand finale. On the ship, it'll basically be just, you know, that group of entertainers putting on a show for you. Royal says they'll be featuring some of the same people who appeared on the TV version. So yeah, this has the potential to be really, really fun.
But this isn't the show that has people upset, right?
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. That would be a new show being introduced on Norwegian Cruise Line's Luna. Appropriately enough, the show is called Lunatique or Lunatic, depending on how you want to pronounce it, base versus the spelling. Honestly, it sounds an awful lot like Up with a Twist, a fun show they have over on Virgin Voyage's Brilliant Lady. I got to check that out when I sailed on her last year, and it was a fun little show that also had a cover show charge. Like that one, this comes with a cover charge. With Lunatic, it's a $45 charge, which covers the show and 4 drinks, which are served as part of the performance. This has people upset on 2 different levels. First, they don't like the idea of paying for a show. You know, this is something we're seeing more and more, that cruise lines are charging extra for various things. Usually in the past, when there's been a charge with the show, it's been a dinner and a show. You know, for example, on Norwegian Breakaway, I guess it was, just a few weeks ago, I saw a movie in the Silver Screen Bistro, something they only have on that ship as far as I know right now. And it basically was $50 for a prefix dinner and then a movie afterwards. Kind of expensive, but you could use a dinner ticket and it was fine. But people do not like paying extra, and they don't think they should have to pay for entertainment. So that's one reason people are upset. But the other reason people are upset is most people on Norwegian Cruise Line get the drink package as part of their promo. You know, they have that free at sea promo that's been running for years, and it includes basically a drink package with it. So people are like, why would I want to pay $45 for a show if the big selling point is that it comes with 4 drinks and I can get those drinks for free on my package? So that's kind of what's got them upset. But it's worth mentioning, this isn't the first time that NCL has tried something like this. When Norwegian Bliss rolled out, they had a show called Prohibition Happy Hour. It was set during the flapper era. It was a little bit naughty, you know, it was a very fun show, honestly. And it featured a variety of drinks being served in between each performance. It was divided up into different acts, and between each act they would serve a drink. I think the cover charge on that one was around $20, whereas this one is $45. And other lines have occasionally charged for entertainment too. For example, on MSC Meraviglia, they had 2 different shows that rotated within the same theater, each of which had a cover charge, and that only came with, I think, 1 drink. So this is not a new concept, but it is certainly something that a lot of cruisers don't like, because they don't like seeing extra charges for everything on board. And I should add that where Norwegian's newer ships like Prima, Luna, ships like that, they do tend to have a lot of sort of things you don't have to do, but if you want to do them, you are going to pay extra, like the mini golf or the darts, things like that come with an additional charge. And now this show. So yeah, not everybody's happy about it.
Would you put Spellbound by Magic Castle on Princess in this same camp?
I don't know if that's quite the same to me, and here's why I say that. Spellbound feels like an entire experience. You're going into this speakeasy and you're, the whole 9 yards. Whereas this is a show. You're going into a small theater. And that's one of the reasons that they charge for things like this is it's not everyone on the ship is going to be able to see it. It's in a small theater. So you have to figure out, so the easiest way to make that sort of a democratic process is by charging for it. But Spellbound feels a little bit different to me. This feels much more, like I said, like Up with a Twist on Virgin Voyages.
That's fair. Staff writer Richard Sims will wrap it up here. As always, thank you, my friend.
Glad to be here.
You're listening to Cruise Radio, America's trusted voice of the cruise industry.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
Have a tip or a lead on a news story? Let us know. Email tips@cruiseradio.net.
Daniel just returned from a 7-night cruise on the Explora 1. That is MSC Cruises, I guess, luxury unit, luxury cruise line, we'll call it there. He joins us on the line to talk all about it from bow to stern and top to bottom. Hey, Daniel.
Hey, Doug. Happy to be back.
Before we get to the actual ship itself, we'll take a step back. I know you normally cruise like Norwegian Cruise Line, Royal, and MSC. What made you want to take this 7-nighter on Explora Journeys with MSC?
Well, I had read an article about them in actually a really good travel magazine, a new travel magazine called Afar. And it seemed a sweet spot, between like Cunard and Regent. And it just seemed fascinating. Like it was the philosophy behind the ship was all suites, small and very interesting ports of call specific. Mm-hmm. So I had booked a trip about a year ago. I couldn't make it because of work. And then like 2 weeks ago, I just on a whim went online. I've had like personally and professionally and Northeast weather-wise a pretty intense winter. And the price was phenomenally reasonable. So I just went for it. As I said before, that I've never done a one-way as opposed to a round-trip cruise. And it was interesting starting in San Juan and ending in Miami. So I grabbed it.
I know we'll get to this, but is there, I guess, model, we'll call it, is it about unique ports where they're not just, popping into Cozumel or St. Thomas, or if they are, it's in a smaller area?
It is. I think that's one of the selling points. And because of the size of the ship, they can get into not only different ports, but as you said, if it's Cozumel, they can get in at a junction that's a little more exotic, maybe a little rarer, maybe even a little more beautiful. But that's definitely one of the selling points is the accessibility of different ports.
You live in the Manhattan area. You had to make your way down to San Juan for this one. Any pre-cruise time before you boarded?
Yeah, I spent the night in San Juan. It was sort of an afternoon flight. And I stayed in an old hotel called the Coronado Vanderbilt, which was built in 1919, which is just outside the old city. Very smallish rooms, totally reasonable price. Beautiful. It's on the ocean, so beautiful views. I just ordered pizza to my room that night, but had a lovely breakfast, which overlooks the ocean, like an incredible San Juan food buffet, and was about 15 to 18 minutes from Old San Juan's cruise terminal.
Well, you go to board the Explora 1. What port do they use down there? Is it the one where all of them are in Old San Juan, or more off to the side where Royal Caribbean goes?
It's in Old San Juan. We were the only cruise ship there.
How was embarkation, and how long did it take you to get from the curb to the ship?
Very, very easy. There are a few passengers relative to bigger cruise lines. There are few passengers. My allotted time was 1 to 2 p.m. I got there around 1:20-ish and was on the ship in, 10 or 12 minutes. So it was quite easy.
And your first impressions when you walked on board?
Well, my first impression on seeing the ship from outside was that it looked like it's very svelte and sleek, and it looks like a James Bond villain mega yacht. It's dark, which is not to say that, in a bad light, because it's just, sort of intense and different looking. And the first impression I had is that there's no atrium, there's no promenade. My cruising mentality mind was looking for a center point, like a true north of the ship. But there's a beautiful sweeping lobby bar, which I guess is the focal point. And it looks like something you find at a Four Seasons hotel. So it's tall, it's, beautifully appointed. It's like a huge long bar. And on either side are shops and guest services. So my first impression was that this is a floating boutique hotel.
I'm wondering, Daniel, do you think they're trying to target like the 5-star experience, Ritz-Carlton, land-based, Four Seasons, not the cruise lines, but the land-based resorts?
Yes, but, they're I know I mentioned Cunard before, but they're not stuffy at all. I would say they're going after people who could afford the Haven or a Royal Suite, but want a totally different experience.
Let's talk about your stateroom. Is this like Silver Sea or Seabourn, where every stateroom is marketed as a suite?
Yes, every room is a suite. Every room has, I think, the same type of bathroom, which was quite spacious. There is a sitting area. There is a terrace. I would say that in terms of the size of the rooms, they reminded me of entry-level Haven, entry-level Royal, give or take a couple of meters. The bathroom was very big. There was a walk-in closet, lots of storage. There was a couch, a little sitting area. The couch pulls out into another bed. The terrace had a day bed, which was really nice, a table and a couple of chairs. So yes, it was indeed a suite. It was pretty spacious.
How much technology was integrated into the suite?
Flat screen TV, USB-C and A bedside on either side. Half the power was European and half were American outlets. So if you didn't have an adapter, you were limited to 2 or 3 American outlets. They had a pretty cool, which I don't blow dry my hair because I either don't have a lot of hair or have short hair all the time, but they have this hidden drawer that has this Dyson hair dryer that is really cool looking, so that was nice tech. Their app is excellent. It's simple. It never failed. You can reserve dining on it. So that was good. They also do have a hard copy paper daily planner that was outside my room every morning, which I appreciate. I like the old school paper. Yeah, that's about it for tech. There were no tablets or anything like that.
Let's talk about the food on board here. And this buffet is it the Emporium Marketplace?
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
How was that? Did it ever feel too crowded on this ship?
No, it never felt too crowded at all. It's just the nature of this sort of new animal of cruising that they limit guests to a little under 1,000. And on my sailing, we had, I think, around 700. The Emporium Marketplace was amazing for lunch and dinner. And you and I both know the pizza on Virgin, which is my favorite. Mm-hmm. This one was up there. But the fresh pasta bar, extraordinary. The fish, sashimi and ceviche, extraordinary. The carving stations, various every day, different ethnicity celebrated, incredible. Desserts out of this world, really good. But it was not a traditional buffet. They don't like the B word. You get served. You go up to whatever station and there's no grab and go experience at the Emporium Marketplace. I had a bunch of reservations for specialty, but I kept on wanting to go back to the Emporium Marketplace because of the pasta, the salads, astounding charcuterie area, different every day. You could never get tired of it. Can't say enough about the pasta. Now, the breakfasts were underwhelming compared to the lunch and dinner, not because the food was bad, but it was very, it's a European ship. So I think in Europe, breakfasts are more simple. You grab a croissant and a cafe au lait and you're off. So the breakfasts were pretty simple, eggs, bacon, sausage, nothing over the top. So if I had anything remotely negative, and this isn't even negative, that the breakfasts were simple.
Are you a big breakfast person?
No, I'm not. I mean, I have a smoothie in my room. Not a big breakfast guy. Big pasta guy, though, especially there.
With the main dining room set up, how does it work with a ship that carries less than 1,000? I mean, is it set dining, one-time dining, come and go as you please?
There is no main dining room. There are 6 restaurants, and you could only reserve them when you get on board. There's a steakhouse called Marble & Co. There is a Pan-Asian place called Sakura. There is a Mediterranean place called the Med Yacht Club. There is a French place, Theme Rouge, I think it is. And there is an Italian place called Anthology. After that, there is a tasting menu place, and I think it's the only upcharge in dining. And I forget the name of it, but it's like a 15-course wine pairing, very exclusive. I think you're at a communal table of 22, and that's just not my jam. So there is no main dining. The Emporium Marketplace would be the MDR on the ship. Mm-hmm. And I got lucky there were a couple of nights I just wanted sushi. There was a space at the sushi bar. I just grabbed it. But reservations were plentiful. So a lot of late dining. Again, that's sort of another European influence on the ship. That some restaurants start at 7:30 up until 10:30 in terms of reservations.
Mm-hmm. Unpack some of those specialty restaurants, if you don't mind.
I hit all of them except for the French place. I did not get to go there. Mm-hmm. Marble & Co. was excellent. It was definitely a little step above a Cagney's experience. The cuts of meat. I had a Wagyu sirloin. Yeah, I had a Wagyu sirloin, which, it was wonderfully well done. Reminiscent for me of like the very, very aged flavor you get at Peter Luger Steakhouse. For those who have been there, it was definitely aged and very tender. Service was great. The place smells like an old New York steakhouse. Gave it a 10 out of 10. Loved it. Then Sakura, in keeping with all the amazing fish options on board, was excellent. It was the solid, very good sushi, incredibly fresh. They had an interesting sake collection, really good sashimi, interesting rolls. It was open on sea days for lunch. So I gave that like an 8.5 out of 10. Then the Med Yacht Club, really bright open, face looked like Santorini, Greece with the blues and the whites. There was one dish I sort of obsessed about. I got it twice, which is this pounded pork loin parmesan. And it's breaded pork that's pounded really thin and topped with this intense tomato sauce and of course, some fresh mozzarella. And it was just like mouth-wateringly good. Anthology was higher-end Italian food. By the time I went there on the 6th night, I had become so spoiled by the fresh pasta in the Emporium that I just wasn't into the sort of Nouvelle cuisine, small plate, taste-forward Italian. So it wasn't for me, although a lot of people seem to be enjoying themselves.
What is the upcharge for the venue that does the tasting menu?
I think there were 2 categories in terms of what types of wine you wanted, but I think it was somewhere between $179 and $329. Oh, there were a couple of other upcharged experiences, and they all were culinary. There is a teaching kitchen aboard, which I visited, which is beautiful, and everything's glimmering, and there's enough space for 10 or 12 to sit while a master chef teaches you how to prepare X, Y, and Z. And that, I think, was around $99 per person, but I did not do that.
How do you entertain a ship that carries 700 people on your sailing, and how did it stack up for you for the week?
Well, it was hit or miss. I mean, they don't have a theater, so there's no Broadway-style shows. They have a a lounge, the Journeys Lounge, which looks sort of like what the second or third biggest entertainment venue on a bigger ship would feel like or look like. I would say it sat maybe 150 to 180 people. There were, at night, there was a magic show, a Voices of Vegas show. There were late night comedians. There were recording artists. I went to 2 performances. One was the magician, who was frankly not very good. It was sort of, I could see his sleight of hand work. But sometimes a bad comedian could be good. A bad magician is a lot of fun because you sort of figure out how he's doing it. And I enjoyed that. The Voices of Vegas was solid. No plot, just, sort of jukebox musical. So those are the only 2 sort of formal shows I went to at night.
With there not being a theater or not being an atrium on board, music outside of the venues, is that even a thing on board, or are they just limited to the venues?
Mostly different venues, although the lobby bar on deck 4 had a Steinway player piano, which played itself, or they had a pianist sometimes. There was a lounge on deck 11 where there was a cello player. There was a DJ for sailaways, and at night he was pretty good. So there's a cello player, there's piano players, there's player pianos, and that's really about it. So if there's a weakness to this brand, it would be the entertainment, not because the performers were lacking talent, but there just weren't a lot of them. And it's not the focus of this brand. People seem to hang out late into the night drinking. There's a cigar lounge. There's a whiskey lounge. So it's very European that way. And in the lounges, there's a lot of Steinway player pianos. There's the celloist, and that's about it.
Well, it sounds like the ship wasn't very crowded, so I won't ask you about crowds and congestion, but how were the sea days and programming on board?
They were good. I mean, there were 2 events that I was interested in attending in the daytime on the sea days. One was a behind the scenes with the captain, the chief engineer, and the general manager of the hotel side of the cruise ship. And that, I love that stuff as a cruise nerd. And that was fascinating. They were, I've been to a few of these on different ships, and these guys were so loyal to their brand. During the Q&A, I asked a question. I said, pie in the sky, if you could improve upon or add any service or venue or aspect to the ship, what would it be? The chief engineer, it's this big, bold Bulgarian fellow. He's like, why? He's like, I would not add anything. This is the perfect cruise ship. It's all about the people. And it's true that the crew seemed really familial together and invested together in this operation. So I enjoyed that. And the second thing, which was really good, was there was a roadie who had toured with and been with the band Fleetwood Mac since the early 70s. And he, spoke for about an hour and a half about his experiences on the road with them and went through a video and musical history of this band. And if you guys know Fleetwood Mac, or you, Doug, know that they went through a lot of turmoil personally. There were interband relationships and breakups and fights, and he knew his stuff. He was his name was Leo Rossi, and that was really, really good. So those 2 were highlights for me.
I like the Q&As when you can tell they are genuinely like they like their job, but they're just not phoning it in, because a lot of those Q&As are strictly phoning it in.
The captain almost burst into tears. Someone asked a good question of what was your most challenging experience as a captain of a cruise ship? And he said that he was just before Explora. He didn't reveal the brand, but he was on a cruise ship where there were a couple of drunken English guys who in the late afternoon started playing a game where they were riding on these sort of rolling child seats. And they were really drunk, and they didn't, one of the child seats without someone in it fell overboard. And it came immediately to this captain's attention. And the drunken guys went to their staterooms without really understanding that something had fallen overboard. And because they had thermal imaging, the person riding had heated the baby seat. So the assumption was that a child in that seat had gone overboard. And it took the captain, he was choking up because he said he's a father of a young child. And he was shocked, traumatized, assumed that on his watch, a child had gone overboard. And it took them about 4 or 5 really long hours until nightfall to find the actual child seat and determine that it was only the seat and not a human that had gone overboard. And that was an incredible story.
Yeah, that's eye-opening. Let's talk about your ports of call on this 7-night cruise. You leave San Juan, Puerto Rico. What was your first stop and what did you do?
First stop was Antigua, where I've never been. And on all the stops we tendered, with every stop, because I had a lot of work to do, I decided to do a day pass, a resort pass, so I would be assured a nice setting, a good lunch. I got a day pass at a place called Carlisle Bay. It was right on the ocean, great pool, great lunch. Taxi driver was a blast. People were very friendly. All our ports of call were these just idyllic, mountainous, gorgeous little islands that at every stop, I sort of invested in real estate porn to see how much a house would cost here, a little bungalow for an expat. They were gorgeous islands. And the next stop was Anguilla, where I did a resort pass at their Four Seasons, which is recently renovated. Did some ocean kayaking there. They had a little taco and tequila bar right on the beach, your feet in the sand. And I actually did a work call from there because there was no one in the place at like 11:30 when they opened. So I had fresh fish tacos and feet in the sand and a margarita and was very, very happy. And went back. I did a little bit of shopping in Anguilla and had a coconut, sliced coconut water, fresh coconut before I boarded the ship again. Loved Anguilla. The third stop was Virgin Gorda, where I've never been. And there I went to a beach club called Oil Nut Bay. Now, Virgin Gorda is famous for billionaires and their islands, such as Sir Richard Branson's Necker Island and Larry Page's island, which is right next to it. It's sort of a soulless place in that it's taken over by yacht millionaires and billionaires. Oil Nut Bay seems to be at the center of it all, this beach club, and it was deserted. So it wasn't my favorite, although I kept on looking at all the windmills on Branson's Island that kept on spinning, generating energy, and sort of thinking about what it would be like to be a billionaire on that island and how potentially lonely it might be. So I guess I wasn't in the best spirits there. The island itself is insanely gorgeous, though. It's just like, of all the islands I've ever been to in the Caribbean, it would be the one I would use to shoot a movie about. Just insanely gorgeous, very old school.
I just pulled it up here, and how you described it, you nailed it. So what was your last port of call?
So after that, the final port of call was St. Thomas, which was lovely. I went to the Ritz-Carlton there. Again, just did work, had lunch. They had a very quiet and nice lobby, very Ritz-Carlton-y or ish. Good air conditioning, very nice people, solid. Again, another beautiful mountainous island. So all the tenders into port and the taxi rides were great scenery watching. I was just, opened the windows, felt the breeze, and just soaked it all in.
So you get back on Explorer 1, you head to Port Miami. How was the debark process?
Debark was good. I left my stateroom at 7:45. I did cut 2 pieces of luggage that were sort of big. I did leave them out overnight. And while, the debark scan was a matter of seconds, and I was waiting for my luggage at around 8 o'clock. So it's like 15 minutes off the ship. The MSC Seaside had strolled into town as well. So the luggage handlers were a little overworked, and therefore I had to wait just like half an hour to get my luggage, which, whatever, no big deal. But I was more accustomed to just, if I had my luggage, I would have been off, I would have been in a taxi in 15 minutes. So the only glitch was that it took a while to get the luggage. And then, because I'm so used to taking my own luggage off, I'm like, suppose they lose it. Why did you do this, Daniel? But everything worked out.
Yeah, you were cool with it, but you can't really excuse that, man. I'm not trying to tell you how to think, but you're selling an upscale product. You should deliver that from embark to debark.
Agreed. There were a lot of loyal Explora customers who were really not happy with it. And first and last impressions are really important.
Yeah, exactly.
This was a really bad last impression because people were freaking out. They were like, am I going to get my luggage? And people had to catch flights, or a lot of people had booked excursions in Miami that they had to catch. So people were not happy.
I want to go back to the onboard experience because this is Explora Journeys. Does that mean that dining, drinks, Wi-Fi, gratuities, everything is baked in?
Everything is included, which Starlink Wi-Fi for 3 devices, which was quick for a cruise ship. It was great and was flawless. All drinks are included. I think that there's a few exceptions, like 1921 Don Julio might be extra or something, but all drinks, all coffee. And there is the baked goods and the bread on the ship were the best I've ever had at sea. They rival the best bakeries in New York. There was a Crema Cafe, which was their coffee shop, that also had outdoor seating, indoor seating, all included. They had an afternoon tea, all included. All tips, gratuities included. So all that stuff was baked in. There were no add-ons. The price for a trip like this is 7 days with all that stuff included was, the mid $4,000, which you will not get on Norwegian's Haven. You won't get on Royals. You won't get an MSC Yacht Club.
Right.
Considering the standards there, it was a steal. And again, I wish them a great success with their 6 vessels. And I just hope that they can afford to lose some money, because I understand how they're making money charging so little.
I didn't ask you about the casino. The one I went on, I think it was Seabourn a couple of years ago. It was maybe 10 slot machines and 3 tables. How was this one, and how was the smoke situation?
This casino was small. It was completely non-smoking. It had about 14 slot machines. It had 3 tables. It had bar service, but not a bar where you could sit. So it had blackjack, roulette, and poker. And those were available on sea days from 2:30 on. The slots were 24/7. I gambled a little bit, won a little bit. It was okay. It was small. It just felt very tight, to be honest, but people seemed to be happy to be there. Again, there weren't many people there that I saw. It was there. It was unremarkable, but...
Would you compare this experience to, say, the entire ship was the Yacht Club on MSC, or the entire ship was the Haven on NCL?
Yeah, you know what? I was thinking of describing it that way to you, that it was like the whole ship was the Haven, which is good, but there is one downside, that in the Haven, you're really treated special, and in the Yacht Club, by your butler or your suite attendant. And in this, because everyone is sort of in quotes, the Haven, I didn't really have many interactions with my suite attendant. There was an initial introduction, and then you just never saw them. There's also no concierge aboard. There's guest services. So the fact that the elite status is sort of democratized across every room, every suite, means that you're not going to get this extra special, VIP treatment from whoever is attending to you, which I did not personally mind, but it was noticeable.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any first-time tips to offer someone who might be, checking out Explora Journeys?
Their prices are all over the place. So I would, if you can find a 7-nighter that's in the 4,000s, and you can obviously, if you can afford it, that it's considering the experience you're going to have and all that you're going to get, I would grab it. I think it's a marvelous cruise line. The beds are fantastic. The food is fantastic. The ports of call are fantastic. If you don't really care that much about the entertainment and you are very into the interesting ports of call, get it, grab it.
Looking back, what was the biggest highlight for you?
The biggest highlight, I'm going to cheat and give you 2 quick answers. One is the ports of call. I was in Anvia maybe 20 years ago and didn't remember it. The islands that we went to are stunning. They're beautiful examples of Caribbean culture, Caribbean life. Yes, I went to resorts, but it didn't matter. The natural beauty, the beauty of the people, the scenery, and the 30 or 40 minutes of tendering and taxiing were worth a lifetime. They just filled my eyes and my heart. I loved these islands. The second thing is just the novelty of the ship itself, that it's all suites. It's very small, but it never felt small. It just never did. Except maybe first day, which is typical of many cruise lines, that the gym is packed. Mm-hmm. And by the last day, I'm the only guy in there. So the ship itself and its food and difference, because you do feel like you're at a hotel that just has beautiful views of the ocean. So I would say the highlights are the ports of call and the novelty of the cruising experience.
These prices are definitely inventory-based pricing because some of them are $4,000 for a week and some are $14,000.
Exactly right. Would I do this for $13,000? No, probably not. But I just booked a 8-night Miami to Miami in December. That's $4,300.
So if that's a solo rate, $4,300, would it be double that, or are you paying double already as a solo on this cruise line?
That is for one person. It goes up only marginally for 2.
Okay.
So it's not going to be $8,600 because I think at first I booked for 2, and it was a few $100s more, which I found very generous.
Well, your final thoughts of Explora 1.
The most different after Virgin cruise line I've ever been on. I will certainly do it again as long as the prices stay right. For cruisers who want something a little more subtle, a little less in your face, where the ports of call are forward and you love fresh pasta and you don't mind no one in the elevators, go for it. It's a great new addition to cruising.
We've been talking with Daniel about his 7-night cruise on Explora Journeys, Explora 1, from San Juan to Miami. Daniel, as always, good talking to you, my friend.
Great. Thank you for having me, Doug.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,